at the Islamists who had taken over a main bridge that crosses the Nile River. Riot police on foot and armored vehicles had by nightfall succeeded in creating a cordon between the two sides. An Interior Ministry statement said police had arrested 19 suspects in Cairo's clashes, including 3 young men suspected of torching a bus that had transported the Islamists to their rally. Islamists and their opponents had also clashed in Alexandria, where 4 people were wounded. The statement added that 1 protester had been injured in smaller clashes in the Nile Delta province of Dakhiliyah. Since President Morsi's election in June, he has sought to face down an increasingly vocal opposition that accuses him of betraying the goals of the 2011 uprising. The Islamists rallying on Friday were demanding an overhaul of the judiciary, which they believe is hostile to Morsi. Last month, a court overturned the decree by Morsi to sack State Prosecutor Abdelmajid Mahmoud, appointed by Mubarak, and replace him with Talat Abdallah. The court believed Morsi had overstepped his powers in sacking Mahmoud, who has been blamed for bungling the trials of former regime officials, including Mubarak himself, after the 2011 uprising.
Welcome back. We resume our press review, and we are still with El Masri Al-Yawm, from which we read that the judges say that the Brotherhood, reform yourselves first. Zend says a huge gathering to stop the aggression. El Baradei says the reform protests are chaotic, and the judges have refused the calls which were held by the Brotherhood group during the Million-Man March, dubbed as reforming the judiciary. The judges confirmed that they will remain the shield of the nation against the dictatorship of any individual or group. The judges hinted that they will call for holding an international conference to stop the aggression directed against them. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Justice asserted that protesting in front of the courts disrupts the process of justice and the independence of the judiciary authority. Zind previously, actually on Thursday, warned against what's going to happen, and he said that it's going to escalate into violence, and he said no one should come near the judiciary. The judiciary is a red line. So how do you see his comments published by Al-Masri?
I believe that nobody should come near the judiciary, but I also believe that judiciary should not come near to anybody else. This is the problem, that some personnel of the judiciary have politicized themselves. They have become partisan. They have taken sides. They have been on the media more than the icons of the media. So this disqualifies them as a fair and impartial judge at this critical moment. So I think this is something that has to be handled preferably within the judiciary, but if it is not handled within the judiciary, I think they're going to lose credibility, and they're going to lose a lot.
And it's going to be very chaotic.
It's going to be very chaotic.
Still with Al-Masri Al-Yawm, we read a court to meet today to look into the complaint of former President Hosni Mubarak. His son Ala asked his father to stand on his feet and accompanies him on a wheelchair to the garden of the hospital. Cairo Court of Appeals has set a session today to look into the second complaint by ousted President Hosni Mubarak concerning his imprisonment for 15 days pending investigations in the illegal profiteering case after another verdict regarding his release in the case of killing peaceful protesters in January 2011. Sir, how do you comment on that?
I think, you know, we are going around in a vicious circle. I think, you know, trying Hosni Mubarak for receiving gifts, I think this is pitiable. The main crime of Hosni Mubarak was he corrupted the political system. This is not receiving, getting a villa there, or receiving presents from Al-Ahram or whatever. These are minor things, and it is very difficult to prove or disprove. But what cannot be argued is that this regime has corrupted the whole country, the whole institutions of the country. This is the crime against Egypt, not receiving gifts. And,
Okay, we are still with El Masri اليوم, from which we read a coup d'etat inside the National Salvation Front because of the statement of participating in the upcoming parliamentary election. The Wafd party is studying to withdraw. The popular current sticks to the boycotting the decision, and the front says our participation is conditioned. A number of parties from the National Salvation Front have announced their objection to the statement the front released on Thursday, which included what they considered as an okay to participate in the upcoming parliamentary elections. El Wafd party said that the timing of the statement, which came on the backdrop of the recent political developments in the country, is witnessing actually abhors all reconciliation attempts. How do you comment on that, and what are your expectations for the National Salvation Front, which groups a number of opposition parties? Do you think that they are going to take part in the upcoming elections? Also, what about the criticism directed to the opposition in general, not only the National Salvation Front, saying that it is a weak opposition?
I think, you know,
Divided.
I have my reservations about the NOMR, National Salvation Front. I don't think that they are participating in salvaging in anything in the country. I think they are participating in creating more chaos and more mayhem. It is also what is happening now. It shows that there is a crack and political profiteering, in the sense that there you have the National Salvation Front announcing that they're going to participate in the elections, and at the same time those members in the Salvation Front deny that they agree to this. How was this decision reached if the main participants are against it? I cannot understand a political force that does not agree to parliamentary elections. I mean, how are you going to create a democracy without parliamentary elections? How are you going to ask the people to participate in governing themselves without parliamentary elections? This is, I mean, I cannot understand this attitude. So there has to be, you know, credibility. I can't understand a political front claiming to be liberal and democratic and giving powers of attorney to the army to take hold of the government, and inciting the government, the army, to a coup d'etat against a legitimate government. This is, I mean, I cannot understand this attitude.
We are still with El Masri اليوم, which raised a very important issue, which is night house arrest. The paper reported attacking house at dawn. That was the main banner. Activists say the Brotherhood repeats the era of dawn visitors. Security arrested 22 activists from the Revolution Youth, saying that they are accused of belonging to a banned group. The phenomena of dawn visitors has returned once again. This as security forces attacked the houses of 22 activists from the Revolution Youth following an arrest warrant for them that was issued by Councillor Talat Ibrahim, the public prosecutor, on the grounds that they belong to the Black Bloc group. How do you comment on that?
Let me first of all comment, I have my reservations also on the number here, revolutionary youth and activists. Those who throw Molotov cocktails, and those today in one of the major newspapers on the front page, there is somebody with a black hood on his face firing a pistol into the crowd. These are not political activists, these are thugs, these are terrorists, and they have to be dealt with according to the law. Let me comment also about the attitude of the media and of the people towards their police, and contrast this. Today it was announced that the man responsible for the Boston bombings was arrested, and in Boston you find the people of Boston applauding their police force and saluting their police force, because they are saving them from mayhem, they are saving them from terrorism and from bloodshed. Today when we find people who are throwing cocktail molotovs, who are shooting live ammunition into the crowds, and we sympathize with them and the media sympathizes with them, this is a recipe for catastrophe.
Okay, we are still with El Masr al-Yawm, which in its front page reported to the regional arena. Israel says the military operations in Sinai are carried out in coordination with us. The reference is to Israel, of course. Spokesman of the Israeli army said that the Egyptian military operations in Sinai are carried out in coordination with the Israeli security parties and with the consent of the highest political levels in Israel, with the aim of facing the political levels, with the aim of facing the challenges which threat the two countries. How do you read this news item, Your Excellency?
I feel sorry, and that today, and this is a fact, that both Egypt and Israel have a common security interest vis-a-vis Palestinians. When Palestinians are digging tunnels and entering Egypt in an illegitimate way, when Palestinians are using Egyptian soil to fire missiles against any other country, when Palestinians act against the security of Egypt, when Egyptian soldiers have been slaughtered by Palestinians who have fled and are given safe haven into Palestine, this is the pitiful act. Those who are trying to embarrass Egypt by saying that we are coordinating with Israel, this is not the issue. The issue is that the enemy of Egypt is whoever threatens the security of Egypt.
Okay. The last item, which is from El Masr al-Yawm newspaper. It's a comment from U.S. Secretary John Kerry. He said, "We are worried because of the course of the system of Morsi." U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry expressed his sorrow over the results of the presidential elections in Egypt, stressing that the Tahrir Square protests were not an Islamic revolution. In a Senate hearing on Thursday tackling the 2014 budget of Kerry's ministry, Kerry expressed his country's concern regarding the course Egypt is currently taking. How do you comment on his statements?
I think the course that Egypt is currently taking is an affair of Egypt, to be determined by Egyptians, not to be determined by Mr. John Kerry. It is not for Mr. John Kerry to tell us who we choose to govern us. It is an affair to be decided by the Egyptians inside Egypt without interference by anybody else.
Very well. Okay, Your Excellency Ambassador Mohamed el Shazly, a member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for coming today.
The pleasure is
Thank
all
you.
mine.
And now let's take a look at the latest reports, updates in the following report, covering the latest in soccer, tennis, golf, and much more. And we'll be right back to discuss the first topic of this edition of The Breakfast.